Check, check. 1, 2, check, check. One, two, check, check. Right, I have to find a better way to check my audio. Excuse me. Welcome to anyone that might be joining me for this impromptu stream. It's what day is it? Saturday afternoon here in the Cape. And, well, got work tomorrow, so the last opportunity to take something to the skies and do some flying. I thought I'd hop into the Cessna 152 here and take us out of Stellenbosch, or rather the Stellenbosch airfield, just outside the city of Cape Town. We're just gonna mess about, maybe do a few touch and goes, maybe explore a thing or two along the mountain ranges, maybe even do a touch and go at Cape Town International. We'll see how it goes. Welcome again to anyone that might be joining. And without any further delay, let's jump into our filthy Cessna 152 Zulu Sierra Blue. Let's get the doors closed here and locked. Make sure we have the parking brake engaged. All the switches are in the off position. We've got the throttle and the mixture in the cutoff / idle positions. Let's access the fuel tank there. Get the engine itself ready for start. I just want to reconfigure my real world throttles here to match the color scheme of the actual aircraft. Right, so mixture fully rich. We're gonna crack the throttle slightly. Fuel valve is open. Let's also just make sure that our radios and everything else is in the off position here. There's no avionics master switch. I do believe that in this particular rendition of the 152 for Flight Simulator 2020, both radios are switched on and off by the leftmost switch, whereas obviously, realistically speaking, each one should be operable by their individual power buttons. But that's neither here nor there. This isn't an aircraft review. This is just, again, a mess about flight in the beautiful city of Cape Town. Right, I'm happy. We can maybe just double check that all our circuit breakers are still in. I think ideally you want to do that once the engine has started. I mean, not the engine, the power has been turned on, because I suppose that's when you're more than likely to get a breaker. So anyways, power on. Ah, look at that. Didn't do our pre-flight properly. Someone knocked the flat lever down to 10, so hopefully no one's fingers were in the way. We will just pop that back up. Man, that's so cool seeing the shadows. All right. I don't like the fact that the autopilot is on. I grew up being told that, you know, your avionics have to be turned off for engine start. Otherwise, you might have some issues with, you know, overloading circuits or whatever. So we're just going to try. I think it was the top left guy, bottom left guy there. Pop that circuit breaker just to make sure that all the avionics are off for the engine start. Right, it's not very dark yet, so we're not going to turn on the nav lights. Just going to go straight on. Turn the beacon lights on. Prime the engine. Let's give it about 3 primes. Actually, let's go 4. I'll go with 4 because no one's flown this aircraft today. It's the first time she's being started up. Okay, I think that's as good as it's going to get. Let's make sure that our prop area is clear. We shot clear prop out the window. Although I have to admit, in South Africa, I've not noticed anyone shouting clear prop like the Americans do. Just a bit of a shame. Anywho, I feel like I'm forgetting something, but again, mess about flight. Not too concerned with realism, although I'm going to try and stick to real world procedures as best I can. I do have the Navigraph VFR charts open in the background to make sure that we avoid any controlled airspace, although there is at this time no air traffic control online. Right, I'm happy to get started, so here we go. Ooh, she sounds good. I love how the 152 in this sim sounds. Right, so immediately we're looking for oil pressure here, which we have. Oil temperature is obviously cold. That will rise steadily as the engine warms up. And we're going to bring the engine back to about 1,000 RPM for a nice, comfortable idle RPM. We can go ahead and turn on the alternator. Before we do so, we just want to make sure that it will work. So we can see that the battery is being drained as we speak. We turn the alternator on, and hopefully we're going to see the battery is currently being charged. So we can confidently say that the battery, rather the alternator, is working. So as mentioned, there's no avionics master switch. We turn on the radios individually. Turn on that autopilot again. I think it was this guy, right? Yeah. It'll go through its little self-test. Turn on our little ADF radio here, I guess. Oh, this one. This guy also turns on. Somewhere here where we should be able to configure the aircraft. How did we do that again? Where did we access the aircraft's menu? I feel like it was here somewhere. Might be confusing this with the WB Sim 172. Anywho, we're going to set the local QNH to whatever it is at Cape Town International. So just pull up Cape Town's weather here. Go to Open Airport. Click on the weather tab. This is all the Navigraph, by the way. So the weather over at Cape Town, which is about 5 miles away from our current position, less than 5, I would say. 330.12. Cavoque 16 and 12 are the temperatures. QNH 1002. Right, so 1002, and we're going to make sure that our HSI is aligned with the, or directional gyro is aligned with the magnetic compass. And we're going to go ahead and confirm the 1022 into the autopilot. We're squawking 2000 for VFR here in South Africa. I'm going to just do a comms check here quickly. Check. Back to 122.8, and we might as well go to the emergency frequency here on our secondary radio. Okay, we can put the Cape Town VOR in as well while we're at it, just for added bit of situational awareness. Boom and boom. Should see our nav radios jump to life. If not, it's probably because we're still on the ground and we're not within well, we are within range. It's just that we're not able to pick up the signal, probably because of terrain. Alright, so it's runway 01 and 19. We're going to be taking off runway 01, so set that more or less to runway heading. And yeah, I'm happy to go. We'll keep the windows open for now, just to get some fresh air. And we're going to make our way to the runway. Try not to blow away the people behind us. It's the clubhouse behind us. There's a bunch of people watching us. Seriously envying our position today here in our filthy 152. Alright, we're going to test the brakes. Okay, they work. And we're just going to mosey our way onto runway 01. Just to confirm, we are heading in a southerly direction, so we are going the right way. We're not going to use flaps for this departure. We just want to make sure, however, that our trim is correctly set. We'll do our run-ups once we get to the runway. I love how the 152 sounds. I mean, this was one of the first aircraft I flew after buying Flight Simulator back in the day. I say back in the day, it was like 3 years ago now. Just love the beefy rumble of this engine. It sounded better to me than the 172. The default 172, that is. I currently have the WB Sim 172 installed with the Boris Audio sound pack. Together, fantastic combo. Love flying the 172. But I thought I'd give our 152 some love today. Right, so this airport's just outside the control zone of Cape Town International, so we won't have to worry about talking to the tower, even though they're not online. But we do have to worry about approaches airspace. The TMA is about 2,500 feet AGL, which is basically MSL here, out here. Alright, we're just going to try and swing the nose as close as we can to north without actually going onto the grass. Parking brake set. Mixture fully rich. We go ahead and close this so we don't blow ourselves to Kingdom Come in here while we do this. Alright, so we're going to pull back on the yoke, make sure the brakes are set, and we're going to go to, I think it's 1,500? Nah, 1,700. Alright, that's about 1,700 on the RPM gauge. We're going to go to the left magneto, look for a drop no more than 150, back to right, correction, both straight to right magneto now. Same thing, we're looking for jump over to left, compare it with the right again, just to make sure there's no difference more than 50 between the two, and we go back to both. We're going to check the carb heat here. We want to see an RPM drop as we introduce warm air into the engine. There we go. Carb heat's working, and the oil temperature is still rather cool, but it's creeping into the green. Idle check. All the way back to idle RPM. We're going to just lean the mixture just so we don't foul the props. We are basically at sea level, so we don't really have to worry about leaning for takeoff, but yeah, just for the idle. Good habit to lean out your mixture just to avoid the magnetos from fouling, as I understand it. Final check here just to make sure we still have enough fuel. We don't have to jump between left and right fuel tanks here, so no need to worry about that. Circuit breakers are all in, radios are all configured the way I want them to be, instruments as well. We're going to limit ourselves to 2,000 feet, so we'll just set that to 2,000 just so we don't go above that. All the windows, doors, closed and locked. Don't think I really did a proper control check, so it's good to just double check that that's all working the way it should. Okay, let's go for it. Alright, so we are in line, so even though I didn't broadcast my taxi intentions, we should do the departure one. So we're just going to double check here to make sure that we're not going to jump in front of anyone, no one's coming or going. Right. Cape Town traffic, Cessna Zulu Sierra Bravo Lima uniform, departing Stellenbosch runway 01 out to the northeast, remaining below 2,000 feet, Cape Town. Alright, so strobes on. Mixture is fully rich. It is a good habit to go all the way to the beginning of the runway, but we're not going to do that today. Again, mess about flight here. No one cares. Landing lights on, and off we go. Oh, we got to remember the transponder to alt. All right, here we go. For real now. Got a right rudder there to counter the torque. We're 50 knots, just below 60. We can start rotating. There we go. We're airborne. Yes. Center the rudders there. We're going to climb out at about 70 knots initially. Trim for 70. Off we go. 70-ish. Alright, clear of obstacles just about on our right. So out there at our 2 o'clock is the town of Stellenbosch. They don't like us flying over them at anything less than 1,500 feet, so we're going to climb to about 1,800 as we make our way towards the mountains. Jeepers, she's a little rocket today. 80 knots, and we're almost 1,000 feet per minute here. All right, that's the 1,000-foot warning from the autopilot to let us know we're approaching our desired altitude, but our desired altitude is in fact going to be 1,800, not 2,000. All right, landing light come off. Wheels don't come up, they stay out. Flaps are already up. Say that covers our after takeoff checks. Crossing 1,400 feet now. Quick glance at our charts here in the background. Once we reach Stellenbosch town itself, we'll be able to climb up to 4,000 feet. So we'll just continue a gradual climb as we make our way into the mountain ranges here in front of us. I want to check out. There's a little campsite I made for myself earlier when I flew one of the helicopters. So let's see if we can find it. So there's 1,800. I'm just going to set the autopilot to that so it stops beeping at us. Back on the power a little bit as we level out. Clean the mixture a little bit. Just because I'm planning on climbing a little bit more higher than this. Alright, this is Stellenbosch that we're flying over. We should be cleared up to 4,000 feet here. And the campsite is just over that wall of mountains there. So we'll see if we can get ourselves above that before we get to it. We should be cleared into the 4,500 foot limit. Keep ourselves out of the TMA above us. Go full power. Again, RPM wise, we're going to trim for 80 knots so we can get ourselves above that mountain range in front of us. Little bumpy out here, understandably so. It's a breezy day today, and obviously these mountains are going to throw us around as far as the wind is concerned. I think we're actually getting a decent crosswind here. Have an EGT gauge on this thing? Same thing. By the way, I hope you guys can hear me. This is an interesting little valley here. I've actually never been here before. Which it's a bit surprising to me considering how long I lived near here. I was going to say that actually I think this is part of the nature reserve. Maybe that's why it's not an area that you'd be driving through routinely by car. Just going to move ourselves away from this wall of mountains here on our right side. Keeping an eye on the VSI, I want to see if maybe we're getting some updrafts. It feels like it. So I think if we stay on this side of the valley, we'll be able to capitalize on some updrafts like a glider would. Keeping it, yep, look at that, well over 1,000 feet per minute, and we're not even at 80 knots yet. But yeah, we're just going to keep an eye on our airspeed gauge. We're going to target an attitude that will give us 80 knots, and we will trim for those 80 knots and then use our hands to control the yoke to sort of refine, just to keep us from stalling, you know, just as we surf these updrafts. All right, I think I put the tent out here somewhere. Oh, I think I saw it there. Yep, there it is. Let's just get over this rise here, and we'll be able to see the campsite off our right side. There it is. 2 tents set up nicely for a sunset barbecue. Alright, I just need to figure out the best way back. I think we'll go around this way ahead of us. We should see the Tierwartus Kloof Dam somewhere. I think that's what's outside our left window. I think we'll take the more scenic route. Yeah, that's the Tierwartus Kloof Dam. Big dam. But we'll take the coastal route back, which would be out there to the right. I've got some downdrafts here. You can see my nose is level, but we are actually losing altitude. We're gonna try and level off here. Don't get much higher than this because we're gonna have to start descending soon. Anyways, just to get back below the TMA. We are still below the TMA, by the way. It's just that the TMA starts getting really low almost immediately after you cross the mountain range. If that makes any sense. Wow. Almost 1,500 foot descent rate, and we're level pitch. We're getting sucked into the ground here thanks to some nasty downdrafts. But we're good. We're high enough, we don't have to worry about it. There you go. Terrain levels out a little bit this side. The vicinity of this dam. Beautiful part of the countryside. So we're going to be headed that way. There's another dam there, the Stiembras Dam. That's the way we're going to rejoin the towns that surround, that immediately surround Cape Town as we make our way back to the Stellenbosch airfield. Nighttime operations not allowed without specially obtained consent. So we're going to try and make our way back there before sunset. If we don't make it, we will make our way to Cape Town International, which currently does not have an ILS operating. They're busy calibrating the ILSs according to today's NOTAM, so no ILS approaches for us today. Not that we'll need them. They also said no VFR training. They didn't say no VFR traffic. So let's see how it goes as we get closer. There's still no ATC, so we should be able to sneak in either way. What happened to my autopilot? Why'd the autopilot die? How did that happen? circuit breaker popped. Keep an eye on that. I don't know if I accidentally pulled it or it actually popped for real. So again, trying to descend here because just as we get past this mountain range, the base altitude of the TMA drops from something like 4,500 feet down to 2,500 feet. Just want to make sure we comply with that altitude restriction. The best way to do it is to go over the roadway mountain pass, which is over there. That'll get us as low as we can possibly go without crashing into anything. We could alternatively just make our way along the dam and then dip down by the coast there and make our way. I think that would actually be a nice... Let's do that. Then we can actually fly over the coastline. 1,000 feet to go. It means we were passing 2,800 feet there, which means that shortly we will be well clear of the TMA in good time for us to descend past the mountain range. We're going to hang around at 2,500 for now until we clear this dam and reach the coastline. This sim is absolutely gorgeous. Mixed feelings about Flight Simulator 2020 though. Not sure what all the fuss is about, at least in terms of it being a quote-unquote new simulator. Looks very much the same as Flight Simulator 2020 with a handful of extra features that arguably are maybe not worth, releasing the sim as a whole new standalone product. But as many are saying, it's still early days. We don't quite know exactly what to expect, so we'll try and manage our expectations for now. Man, this is so relaxing. How nice it would be to be able to do this in reality. So we are real world weather and real time. So this is what the guys in Cape Town would be experiencing right now if they were to take up their own aircraft on this beautiful Saturday afternoon. Alright, we're going to start descending. Again, we got to be preferably below 2,000 feet once we reach the coastline, so, or at or below 2,000 feet. I was going to turn on the nav lights just for that extra bit of visibility. Start getting dark pretty soon. shooting our way through this little valley over here. I don't even know if it qualifies as a valley. This little gap. I don't want to get too close to the terrain here in case we encounter some more downdrafts. Although I'm feeling like we're actually being pushed up as we approach the edge of the mountain range here. Nevertheless, we just want to allow ourselves a little bit of extra room to play in case we start falling out of the sky. Alright, we're about 2,000 feet now. So we're safely beneath the TMA that we wouldn't have to worry about making any air traffic controllers angry. And check it, that view. Again, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful sights in the world. Oh, I'm getting a little bit of turbulence here. Mountains right up against the ocean. It is a wonderful drive. Just so, by the way, okay, we drifted up a little bit, about 2,000 feet here, so let's push the nose down to get below 2,000 and make our right turn back in the direction of Stellenbosch. Still no air traffic control online, sadly. Technically the bay is restricted flying area below 2,000 feet, 2,500 feet, so we'll hug the coastline as best we can, as they don't want anyone flying out there. So somewhere out there is where I used to live. It's why I am most familiar with this part of the world. Here's that mountain pass. Hold up, no. The mountain pass is further down. This one actually takes you up to the dam. Also a nice drive. There is the Gordons Bay Harbor. I used to be part of a volunteer sea rescue organization down there. Some good times. Always good to glance down at your instruments cases to make sure everything's still okay. Autopilot's still working. I'm not sure what caused it to switch off earlier, or rather what caused the circuit breaker to pop earlier, but it seems to be staying on for now. We're going to follow along this coastline, so we are now looking at Strand, a little private harbor down there. For those so financially inclined to be able to afford a place in a marina. Alright, it's been a while since I've actually advertised my position, so let's put out a call to anyone that might be in the area. Because there's no ETC doesn't mean there are no pilots. Let's see, I'm just going to use visual referencing points here. So, Cape Winelands traffic says no Sierra Bravo Lima uniform is overhead the Strand Beach area, routing to the north for Stellenbosch, currently at 1,200 feet, Cape Town. Okay, a little dark in here. Let's see if the panel lights are working. Turn them all the way down. I think you have to turn them on. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there was a panel lights. Oh, there they are. ask to switch. There we go. Get the instruments to light up for us a little bit. So let's stay at 1,200 feet because that's what I advertised. Someone else in the area that might not be in the mood to talk on the radio might be just flying at a different altitude based on what I said, and yeah, so we don't want to bump into him or her. So out there is Table Mountain, Cape Town city itself. I wonder, shall we do a touch and go at Cape Town International? I wonder if we'll have enough time. Alright, there is restricted airspace coming up in front of us. We're going to have to fly inland because it does extend out to the sea a little bit. So we'll fly along what's known as the N2 highway and make our way to the airport that way. On traffic, so Zulu Sierra Bravo Lima uniform. It's about 10 miles southeast of Cape Town International, 1,300 feet inbound for touch and go Cape Town traffic. As long as we stay on the northern side of the highway, we should be clear of that airspace. It's because down here somewhere I might actually be encroaching on the airspace. Yes, I am about to. Down there somewhere is ammunition swamp, so just as a precaution, they prefer people do not fly over it. A not so fun fact, there was an explosion, a big explosion there a few years ago that actually killed a few people because of an accident. So it's not without good cause that there is a restricted airspace there, patch of airspace. Right, I don't know why I'm struggling to climb. Trim a little bit more to get us up to 1,300 feet. So the Cape Town Tower would typically ask VFR traffic of our kind to proceed into the control zone at or below 1,500 feet. To report the field in sight next or something along those lines. Again, no air traffic control in line, so we'll just proceed at our own discretion, broadcasting our intentions along the way on the Unicom frequency 122.8 as has been programmed in on our COM1 radio. Pity we're not hearing any other air traffic. I don't know what else. Am I the only one that wants to play computer on a Saturday evening? Doing a terrible job at maintaining my altitude. I'm not actually trying, that's why, just for the record. My goodness, we keep getting pushed up by some air currents. And I'm hoping we're going to drift down slowly to 1,300. So let's just push our nose down a little bit here, get ourselves to 1,300 feet. Stellenbosch is out there, the airfield that is. We're making our way from the southeast to Cape Town International. Trying to get to 1,300 feet here. She doesn't want to go that low. There, that should do the trick. Checking for any updated weather information on our little Navigraph tab here in the background. And you go to open airport, and there we have winds still at 330, strength 10, Cavite 15 and 12 hour temperatures, and QNH 1023, so it's just gone up a little bit. Hit the B button there to help us out, and lower the nose a little bit more here. You never know, there might be someone at the airport itself preparing for a flight. I think that's the airport out there. Yeah, should be the airport out there. I straight up guessed my distance from the airport earlier, thinking I don't have a DME, but I forget I do have a DME indicator in the aircraft. So there's our distance from the airport, or more accurately, it's our distance from the VOR beacon that just so happens to be located at the airport, the Cape Town VOR. So just for visual reference, I'm going to set the heading bug here to 330 just to remind me the direction of the wind. That would be the direction that the wind is blowing from. We'll be using runway 01. We also, every 15 minutes or so, need to update the DG, the directional gyro, as we have as the instrument tends to drift as time goes on, requiring you to periodically adjust it to match what it says there in the magnetic compass. Beautiful sunset flight. We're probably not going to make it back to the airport before we get sunset. I think we can still get there as long as there is some light. So as long as we get there before lost light, I think we would still be legal. I stand to be corrected. How are we doing with fuel? Still plenty of fuel, more than 3/4. And yeah, the engine instruments are all pointing to the green. So far so good. Still drifting upwards, struggling to maintain that 1,300. Oh my goodness, I'm looking at the wrong thing. I thought that was the airport there. The airport's right over there. If memory serves, you can join the pattern at a 45-degree angle. So this puts us at a decent position to join the base leg for runway 01. We start slowing ourselves up here, making sure the mixture is rich. Okay, we're about 3 miles from the airport, so Cape Town traffic, Central Sierra Bravo, Lima Uniform, 3 miles south of the field, 1,200 feet to join on the right base for runway 01. Touch and go, departing out to the east again. We'll report final approach next, Cape Town. A little bit on the long-winded side, but we're not doing a conventional touch and go. We're going to touch and go and bugger off to the east again. Alright, so let's make our turn onto the right base here. Bring the engine back nice and easy. A little bit behind schedule with our flaps and a little bit on the high side here, just because I wasn't watching properly. So we're going to turn onto into a short final here. We're below 80 knots, so we're going to bring down 10 degrees of flaps. Cape Town traffic says to Sierra Bravo Lima Uniform, final approach runway 01, touch and go, departing to the east, right-hand turn out, Cape Town. Alright, now we can go to flaps 20 as we approach 70 knots there. A little bit of turbulence here. Alright, now we're about 65. Full flaps now, confirming that the flaps are indeed down. There's a bit heavy here. Trim for about 60 knots. Try and keep us coming down on the pathway there. 2 whites, 2 reds. We're going to do a power on approach here. I understand that there are 2 ways to fly an approach in a Cessna. One is coming in high enough that you can do a power off landing, almost like a dead stick landing, but the engine is just at idle. And the second method is this way, power on like you would in most other fixed wing aircraft. Aiming for those 2 solid white blocks, keeps us on the profile. Alright, gear down, flaps down, lights, everything. Oh, lights are on to do my checks. There we go. Flare and cut the power. And we're down. Flaps coming up. And power coming back up. Flap up departure here again. 60 knots, we're going to pull back. And we're up. I want to do that again. I didn't do my before landing checks. All I missed was my landing lights. Not the end of the world. Luckily the wheels, they stay out. Flaps are up. Cape Town traffic says Sierra Bravo Lima Uniform. Airborne, right hand turned out now. Out to the east for Stellenbosch. Remaining below 1,500 feet. Cape Town traffic. Again, aiming for 80 knots, pitching for 80 as they say. And we're going to make our way towards those hills out there, the Butler Hills. That is a good reference point for the boundary of the Cape Town control zone. There we go. Facing east more or less. And we're climbing to about 1,300 feet again, why not? Alright, just take a check again. The flaps are up, the gear stays out, the landing lights can come off. Power is as required, and we're making our way back to Stellenbosch with minutes of sunlight left. Very sloppy altitude control for me today. Back on the power a little bit more. So T's and P's are still looking good. Just checking to see which lights are actually modeled on the aircraft. It seems like both landing and taxi lights are modeled. For those that might be wondering, this is the, I think this is the JP Logistics Cessna 152. Wonderful freeware add-on, bringing a lot more realism and therefore immersion to this aircraft. As far as I know, the sound pack is still the same, which, as I've mentioned, I have no issue with. Always enjoyed the default sounds of this aircraft, but yeah, now you can open up doors and windows. You've got circuit breakers that are actually modeled. I think there's more realistic behavior from the engine, and can't remember the list, but there's a lot more custom options available to you with this aircraft. It just makes it a lot more fun to fly than the default aircraft. On traffic, Cessna Sierra Bravo Lima uniform, exiting the CTR to the east, 1,300 feet, climbing to 1,800 feet to join overhead Stellenbosch Airfield to land. Cape Town traffic. So, power on again. We're going to climb. The entry altitude for Stellenbosch Airfield is 1,800 feet, and I believe the circuit altitude is 1,300 feet after joining, so we shall oblige with said altitude restrictions. Now we just have to figure out where the airport is. The sun is just about setting now. We are at the very limit of legality here as far as operating in and out of Stellenbosch Airfield is concerned. I think that's the airfield out in front of me. There should be a golf course or other golf estate nearby, and then there's this strawberry farm. I think it's strawberries at the end of the runway, so this should be the airport. My, oh my, 1,800 is really high. Anyways, the point is to get you above the pattern altitude so that you can do your little runway inspection. Keeping a lookout for that windsock. Yeah, that looks like, yeah, that's for sure the airfield out there in front of us. So, there we go, 1,800 feet. And we just need to work out the dead side of the airport is going to be on the eastern side. They want us to stay on the west side, so it's always going to be on the eastern side. But yeah, just trying to get my bearings here. So yeah, we're going to descend to 1,300 feet once we overfly the airport. So again, we failed to maintain our target altitude here. Let's get back up to 1,800 feet. And we'll keep a lookout now for the windsock, which is showing us that runway 01 is still the preferred runway. Yep. We'll park between those two aircraft again. That's where we parked earlier. Right, so here we go. Let's concentrate. Power down and let's start descending. We want to join on the left crosswind for runway 01. So we're going to descend now on the dead side here. No more than 1,000 feet for passenger comfort. Keep the power as low as you can go, basically, because we don't want to disturb the rich people down there in the Gulf estate. And And we're descending to 1,300 feet. Aiming for the crosswind. So just to prevent being on the radio too much, being a nuisance to anyone else that might be flying right now, we're going to limit our calls to just downwind and final approach. We could do calls more often if we were aware of any aircraft in the area, but no one's speaking on the frequency, so either they're just lazy to do so or there's just no one else flying right now, so yeah, no need for us to be overly enthusiastic with our radio calls. So there's the runway, perpendicular now on the left crosswind, keeping to the western side of the airfield, where, as you can see, not many houses are, so it's just preferable that we stay over this part of the airfield to be friendly neighbors. Right, we're going to make our turn to the left now so we can enter the left downwind. We're going to do a power off landing this time. And by that I just mean we're going to just use the idle power. Again, I stand corrected, but I think that is an actual method of landing in aircraft like these. The logic being that if you were to suffer engine failure on the final approach, you would not be in a bad position to glide, because you're essentially doing that anyways. Alright, so we are well past the runway threshold, so we're a bit behind our descent schedule here, but again, we don't want to go too low because we want to perform that power off landing. We're about 45 degrees from the touchdown zone now, so we're going to make our turn onto the base leg. I forgot to report us on the downwind leg, but it's fine. I don't think there is anyone flying today, right now at least. Again, we don't want to get too low. This is the thing about the Cessna aircraft, the high wing aircraft. It's really difficult to see where you're going in a turn because the wing obstructs your view. There we go. We're base now, base on the base leg. We can go ahead and just wait for us to drift below 80 knots there. A little bit behind schedule with the flaps. There we go. Below 80 knots, we're going to bring the flaps down to 10. Keep an eye on that runway. There's about 70 knots, flaps 20 comes down. Push down on the yoke just to keep the nose from ballooning as the flaps come down. Alright, final approach, gear down, flaps are almost down, landing lights are on. Stellenbosch traffic, sensors Zeus here, Bravo Lima uniform, final approach runway 01, full stop landing Stellenbosch. Alright, and we're going to come back on the power here. Mixture is fully rich, just to confirm. There is below 70 knots. We're going to bring all flaps down now. Alright, we're still a bit turbulent here, a bit low for a completely power off landing. Allow ourselves to drift a little bit high. I guess we can chop the power now. Yeah, we can chop the power now. I feel like this may be a bit exaggerated. I'm not sure, but anyways, we're coming in now. Yeah, this was a bit exaggerated. Bit of a tactical approach there. Made it down in one piece and without stalling the aircraft. The turnoff should be here somewhere. So yeah, we made it just before final light, or whatever it's called. Last light. I think we're still legal. We are night rated, so is the aircraft. So no harm, no foul. Turn off the runway here. Flaps can come up. I'm gonna lean the mixture a little bit here so we don't foul the spark plugs or whatever. All right, clear left and right. Taxi landing, and strobes can come off. Transponder back down to standby or off. And we got enough fuel so we don't need to actually worry about refueling, so we're gonna skip the fuel bay today. Do have to use the brakes to help with the really sharp turns. All right, I think here is as good a place as any to park. We'll just park next to those Cessnas there at our 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. All right, I'd say that about does it. Parking brake can come on. We'll just idle the power around 1,000 as we just make sure that everything else has been turned off. We didn't forget about anything. The trim we can reset here. Taxi lights can come off. And yeah, I think that was it. Cut the power, so to do that we kill the mixture or pull the mixture. Switch off the magnetos. External lights off. And yeah, that's it. We'll leave the panel lights on just because I won't be able to see what I'm... Well, actually no, we don't, because I have the actual buttons. Oh, and we have the flashlight function. Power off. And that's all she wrote. Can I actually turn this thing off? Yeah, I can. Cool. And that's all she wrote. Thanks to anyone that might... Thanks to anyone that might have joined me for this impromptu stream. It's been a while. I've been away for, I'd say, more than a month from flying virtually. The computer was in the shop, and I squeezed in a vacation somewhere in between all that as well. So back at it again. I'll try and do a few more streams in the coming week. The plan is to move over permanently onto my actual flight simulator channel, but I guess more on that closer to the time. For now, thanks again for joining me. I hope you enjoyed your time with me, and I hope to see you again in future streams. Cheers.